Right, the live stream started, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Right, good evening, councillors, and Libby and Matt. Welcome to tonight's meeting of Planning, Property and Services. I'd just like to remind you the same old, this committee of PPS is now being streamed live on YouTube, so be aware of your actions, and if you do need to take a phone call, turn off your mute. You should be muted anyhow. Turn off your camera, or if indeed you want to nip out for a comfort break, do same. Turn off your camera. That said, have we got any apologies? I've got an apology from Tom, and I think I understand Dave Boyton is trying to attend, but he will possibly because of commitments at work. Those are the only two. Item 3, declarations of interest. To record declarations of interest by any member of the council in respect of the agenda items listed below. Members declaring interest should identify the agenda item and type of interest being declared. None. And item 3B, to note dispensations given to any member of the council in respect of the agenda items below. 4, to approve and me sign the minutes which you've all been circulated. I take it those are agreed, are they? Yeah. Getting a thumbs up and a nods. Yeah. Item 5, Christmas lights. Now we've got Duncan, Councillor Jack here, who wishes to talk about the latest what's planned for this coming year's Christmas lights and what is got planned in preparation for the lights. I have to say, members, that Councillor Duncan Jack has done a sterling job, him and Joy. Whilst it's been dark nights, they've been around walking the streets, checking everything, making sure that we've got the infrastructure there should we need them to be any more lights put up. And me and Duncan have cleaned out the lockup, so Peter Jacobson has got space to store the Christmas lights, and we're hoping that we can clear a bit more space so we can put other stuff there. But I'll hand it over to you, Duncan. You're on mute. Unmute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted a quick word just to put it in the picture, because I mean we're with Anne and self. We're in a little group there with me and Tom, with a little group with Christmas lights, and just wanted to keep you up to date with where we've gone, because last year, in some ways, with the lockdown and everything, we were a bit late onto everything, and it was all a bit rushed, and we had planned to get on with things earlier last year, but because we went into lockdown and people weren't set up for lockdown as such at first, nothing actually got done. So this year, we've already asked Peter Jacobson to, as soon as possible, to go through the infrastructure in the town, the fittings are working, but to get the timers so they all seem to come on at just a similar time, if at all possible. We've also asked him to repair 2 of the existing Christmas trees that have gone up. The third one, the feeling of the group was it was too far gone, and that's been put into storage. But we've asked him to repair and make the 2 other Christmas trees that we use at the moment absolutely lickety-split, get them repaired and in prime working order. We've also asked, it won't be Peter, but asked And on the North Bar, the uplighters on North Bar, which in fact should be on all year round, really, there's only one set working, which is on the Coronation Gardens side of inside the bar. The other 3 sets of uplighters are not working. So we've asked them to look at, make sure, get those working so they're on for the whole of the year, and also look at the possibilities of getting different coloured filters on the lights for festive and celebratory periods. And he said, yeah, that was also a runner. With additions to the existing lights, we're looking at putting further lights on the trees that we're already doing in Dyer Lane, at Tolgevel Church, and the 2 in Wednesday Market, which we've done this year. We're looking at getting a few more lights on those to brighten them up even more, because they did look a bit thin. That they worked, but they wanted a bit more body and bolstering up, we felt. We looked at putting the fittings up in Swabish Yard, which we have available. We had 2 which we couldn't get up this year, but in the meantime, Peter is going to be on with getting footings in on lamp standards in Swabish Yard, so we can get 3 fittings up in Swabish Yards, which will enhance that. And also to get another 2 fittings on lamp standards in Railway Square. The other, as opposed to the one side of Railway Square we've got done, but the railway station side of Railway Square, we're looking at getting 2 of the lamp standards there and fittings put on those to enhance that. And the Memorial Hall, we're looking at securing the bottom of the lights that were already up, because they've blown about in the wind and they had a lot of work trying to keep them level and right. But asked him to put 2 on, there's a pillar either side of those lights that we've already got up, but on either side of that, we've asked him to put up fittings, putting up the fittings so we can get 2 more strings of lights down to enhance the Memorial Hall. So that's more or less, it's with the existing structure. I must say Well Lane was well received, and if we could find somewhere else to do a bit similar, other places in the town, we would certainly like to do that, I think. But the other reason I wanted to have a word was, obviously, I think the will is for us to extend the lights further. So the Salmon Road, we've asked Peter to look at Salmon Road area, where there would be a good place to actually, it's all about being able to power whatever we put up. So we've asked him to look at the area around Salmon Road shops to see what we could actually, where we could actually get the power supply, so, and then we could actually look hard at what sort of fitting people wanted to put there. Another area we thought we would like to do would be the Cherry Tree Centre. We thought the Cherry Tree Centre, which is such an active part of that area, if we could do something to light up the Cherry Tree Centre over the Christmas period, I think that would be a good thing. And the other area we felt that would be possible is at the end of the beck. As you come round the corner, there's the beck end, and then there's that flower bed that faces you as you go down there. Now then, there is a lamp post right by there, so we feel it would be quite possible to get a fitting and a welcoming fitting into the town. I suppose like the Memorial Hall fitting is a welcoming fitting into part of the town, and the North Bar is there. But if we could get something nice in that bed that people, as they came into Beverley, the lights were there saying, "Welcome to Beverley, here we are." Beverley's thing, and it also shows we're also thinking about that maybe a bit of neglected end of the town that wants doing. But obviously the reason, I think the main reason that I've asked to come tonight was to say we want to pick everybody's brains on the council for suggestions, what, where and what they'd like to see there in the future, because we want to crack on with it now. We want it all done, or that the infrastructure for it certainly by July. And that means that in September, October, when they start putting up the lights by necessity, that the fittings are there ready for, you know, the infrastructure's ready for them to go, and we're not looking at messing about repairing stuff and doing that at that time of year. And it would also mean we can get the orders in for what we want, and we're not hanging about the last minute betties again. So that is the thinking behind this little chat with you all. And you know, as I say, if anybody's got any ideas immediately now on the tip of the tongue of areas they'd like to see done, let's hear them. Or otherwise, I'd just like you to go away and think about it and come back to us all.
Claire.
The lights on Well Lane that you said were so well received, couldn't you do that down the beginning of Wood Lane? That's a similar kind of width and everything. And also on Salmon Road, Pete mentioned about stringing fairy lights in the trees, because where my son works at Molescroft Grange on Lockwood Road, that's what Batty did in her tree. She put fairy lights all in the branches. So I don't know what you think of that.
Yeah. Two good suggestions there, Duncan.
Yeah, I've got it written down.
Yeah, right. Yeah, David Tucker.
It's probably a non-starter because of a lack of a power, but I've always felt that Black Mill, with that to be illuminated somehow, you know, would look quite spectacular on top of Westwood. But I suspect there's no power in there, so it's either going to be a battery source or a non-starter. Make it into a big Christmas tree.
Yeah, I can see him writing down, Duncan.
Yeah, again, we've asked Peter Jacobson to investigate into, because solar lights are getting better, but I think that the solar panels, but I think they can only really do smaller, you know, smaller light sources at the moment. But I think each year they are improving. And we have asked Peter to investigate for us what we can actually get that will be solar powered, because if it gets solar powered, it would certainly broaden our palette quite considerably.
Claire again.
What about having fairy lights around the outline of the North Bar? Or as, I don't know if anyone's already suggested that, you know, the outline of the, like some people do with their houses, and I think it looks really nice where they follow the roof line, the outline of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, and Duncan knows what you mean, and so does Anne. But for those of you that don't know, the North Bar itself is privately owned.
Right.
We'd have to get permission off the owner. So that's the only problem we've got. You know, so yes, Anne.
We did wonder if we could put some lights on like Memorial Hall. One of the problems is the traffic lights.
Yeah.
We didn't want to interfere with the traffic lights and cause crashes, because everybody would see the lights and all go together at once.
Yeah.
So there are issues with that as well.
That's why John Baird, God rest his soul, they agreed for uplighters, if you remember, Duncan.
Yeah.
Just an idea, Duncan. Helen, months ago, was looking at some of them solar powered Christmas trees, like they have in Walkington. I was wondering, would it be useful if we got maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them just to try? Mute.
I think I'm right in saying, Matt, that we're actually investigating that as well, aren't we, at the moment?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think the idea is to maybe get 2 or 3 smaller sections of solar powered lights to see how they go this year. One area that people have considered in the past is Coronation Gardens, but it's difficult in the trees in there. It's difficult to get an electricity source in, or it'd be very expensive and disruptive. So it's the idea of testing just like subtly in a couple of places, not make a big thing about them, but to test them to see how solar panels go, solar powered go, and if there's success, to look at maybe expanding it in the future.
Yeah. Right, I think that. Go on, Claire.
You know, on Salmon Road, you know, there's that corner outside Sally's Deli,
Mm.
and then down the side of Lloyd's.
Mm.
Couldn't you put an external power source on that wall and have a big Christmas tree there with lights on? Because that corner always looks a bit lonely.
Yeah, I know, but as Duncan said, he's Peter Jacobson, who was the street lighting man who we work with, is going down there to have a look, do a recce, and see what he can and cannot do, what's doable.
Right.
It may well be the case that, yeah, that could be a goer, but it has to be, you know, somewhere that it can get a line safe. Yeah. Okay then. Yeah. Right.
Thank you. I've got another
Thanks,
meeting
Duncan,
tonight,
for
so-
that.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you. Good night to you
Right.
all. Cheers.
All right. Ta-da. Thank you. Right. Yeah, that was useful. That. Thank you, members, for that. Right. Item 6 then. Delegated responses. You'll see Matt and myself have agreed the delegated response. There's 7 items before you. You know, that agreeable? Yeah. Okay. Item 7 then, planning applications and environmental applications. We'll go on to 49 Kelgate, erection of a single-storey extension to the rear, demolition of existing lean-to greenhouse, alterations to roof, pitch of existing single-storey, rear projections and other external alterations. And you'll see the suggested responses. Beverley Town Council has no objection to this application on the conditions that the comments raised by Eric, conservation officers, are positively resolved. That agreed? Yeah. 42 Cartwright Lane, erection of a single-storey extension to the rear, and the suggested response that we have no objection. Yeah. 49 Kelgate. Should we have taken these two, Matt, together? We've got no objection to this.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the second one is a separate
Yeah.
application, but in more detail in the actual description.
Right, thank you, Matt. The suggested responses, that we have no, same as before, no objection, provided that the Eric's conservation officers' responses are positively resolved. Is that agreed? Yeah. 3 Beverley Town Cricket Club and Recreation Club, Norwood Park Recreation Club, Lane, Beverley. Installation of a 6 5-meter high galvanized steel columns, the floodlights, and our response is that Beverley Town Council supports the application. The provision of floodlights will enable greater capacity usage of these important facilities, encourage more people to become involved with grassroots sporting opportunities to help secure longer term sustainability of the club in general. I see Linda, you've got your hand up, Linda. Do you want to unmute?
Thank you, Chair. Could I make a comment? There's quite a lot of concern by householders around this area that these floodlights are going to be on at all hours of the day or night. Could I make a suggestion that we request that these floodlights are turned off at a sensible hour? Say, I mean, this is for grassroots football, so maybe if there's a match at a bank holiday, then the lights could stay on a little bit longer, but certainly Monday to Friday and Sundays, perhaps they should be off at a more sensible time. there are a lot of families who live around there, and there are concerns that the floodlights will be quite bright and might impact on youngsters, into youngsters' bedrooms, etc.
Ian and then David.
All I can say is that we've had floodlights at the rugby club for forever. I remember putting them up in 1978, and there were concerns, and people tend to take advantage by putting gates and accessing the place. So I don't think it'll impact that negatively, in my personal opinion.
Thank you, Ian. David?
I'd like to support what Councillor Johnson says. The addition to that, though, it's not just the lights creating a problem. When the lights are on, people are playing. When people are playing, they're making noise. So I think there's the additional factor of lights on is playing time. So I think it's entirely reasonable to suggest that there is a cut-off point where we'd expect the lights to go off and the games to stop.
Thank you, David. Ian, again?
The facility's been there since, I think, 1938, when they moved off the Westwood. And it's been there a long time. And yeah, okay, a limited time, perhaps, 10:30 or 11 o'clock would be entirely appropriate. But
I don't, to be honest, from the chair, I don't think we should suggest a time. I think all our comments should be that we've no objection to this, but bearing in mind the Beverley Town Council Planning, Property and Services Committee would request that a sensible time be agreed by the East Riding officers. Yeah? Are we all in agreed with that? Thank you. W.H. Smith's books 6 to 8 Tall Gable, installation of a roller shutter to front. Beverley Town Council thanks the application for taking local concerns into consideration and has no objection to replacing the solid shutter with one that resolves the concern of planning consultees. Is that agreed? Yeah. Capital Park, Annie Reid Road, variation of condition 4 of planning permission, erection of building units 2A, 2B, 3A, 6, 7 and 8, Annie Reid Road, Beverley, for the purpose classes B1, B2 and B8 of the Town and Country Planning Act. Our suggestion is Beverley Town Council has no objection to this. You've all looked at them, I take it. Yeah. Is that agreed? Yeah. White Agency 61 North Bar within. Is these two together, Matt?
That is my error, Mr.
Right.
Chair. That is for another application. I'll try and find out what it is.
Yeah.
If not, we'll delegate it, Mr. Chair.
Right. Replacement of timber windows to match existing and re-roof of the rear annex using reclaimed slate and replacement slates to match existing. It is a retrospective application, is this? But whilst we've no objection, the suggestion is to this application, it regrets that the submission is made retrospectively. Okay, we agree with them comments. Yeah. We'll skip next item till Matt finds what it's about. 33 Lowfield Road, Beverley, change of use of existing garage to acupuncture therapy room and store. Application of a timber and leaded cladding feature panels and associated works. And our response is with no objection to that application. We agreed? Yeah. See a lot of nodding heads and thumbs up. 36 North Bar, without erection of a single story extension to second floor, extension to the rear, and installation of a roof light to rear. And we have no objection to this application on the condition of the East Riding of Yorkshire Council's Conservation Officer positively resolved. Are we agreed? Yeah. Thank you. Next one is St Helens Court, Beverley. Replacement of existing timber windows and external doors with UPVC double glazed windows and composite doors, and replacement of timber cladding to bay windows, gables and dormer cheeks with UPVC rosewood cladding, and the suggestion is with no objection. Yeah, agreed. Thank you. And then Carol Baird, interiors 47 North Bar, within installation of a frame painting printed on aluminium backplate to gable wall, and the suggestion is with no objection to that application. Yes, Matt.
Going back up to the one with the address missed off. The details are there and the link was live. That is to 28 North Bar within Orlando's. And if members looked at the application, the tree that they're talking about is pressing against the old wall that it's adjacent to, which is the reason they're requesting felling it for the safety.
Yeah. Do we agree? Yeah. Sorry. I agree, David. Do you want to speak in as well?
David, after you, I'll give way to David.
Cheers. Just a quick comment in that we've got the 2 trees down, which is important. I don't know how we can do this, but could we remind East Riding of the need for them to be of a suitable size? We've had examples of people replanting trees which are very small, which don't survive. Those trees are of an appropriate maturity to replace what's there. They take a long time to grow, and they're taking a superb specimen species down.
Yeah. Comments, Ian?
With regard to what Councillor Tucker's just said, yeah, you can get standard trees of a good from my time at Dale Landscapes. You know, you can get massive trees that you can transplant. Going back to the Carol Bird, which is the point I was making, do we know the nature of the painting they're going to hang on the gable wall?
Matt?
It's part of I think it's part of the Elwell Trail.
Yeah. So do we agree this application, bearing in mind what Councillor Tucker said, Matt?
We do put, Mr. Chair, that a suitable tree. The East Riding officers who deal with it do liaise with the residents. I'm not sure how much influence we can have in requesting what sort of size of tree that people replace them with. We have just this month, following the last meeting, I've included to replace each tree with 2 trees, which was the request from last time. I can speak to the East Riding about it, but I think the problem is, you know, they do advise the applicants, but it's up to the applicants what they put in.
Right. David?
Yeah, I take Matt's point in the sense that it is the responsibility of East Riding. However, my view is, as a town council, trees are important to the town. We're losing a very large mature tree, and I think we, you know, have a perfect right and duty to say we would like to see them replacing them with a suitable specimens which will grow quickly. And as Councillor Gow said, you know, large ones can be purchased, which will get it off to a good start. I think we should make a point is that we're looking and watching this carefully.
You're taking David's point and Ian's points, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll speak to East Riding, but so our response is always 2 suitable new trees to be planted. I'll liaise with East Riding.
Yeah. Are we agreed on that then? Yeah. Item 8 then, public speakers on planning applications to approve the final statement regarding the process of a member of the public speaking on planning applications. You've got the attached paper. You can see what Matt's suggested. Do we agree that? Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thumbs up, nods of head.
Mr. Chair, could I ask Councillor Willis to just lower her hand, please? She's got her digital hand raised.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Anne. Right.
What were you saying about technology before, Anne?
Item 9, then, bonfires on allotments, to consider recent comments, stroke concerns from residents regarding bonfires, and you've got sight of 2 emails which Matt has kindly redacted the names, but you've seen the type of concerns which these residents have got. I know PPS, we've discussed it at least 2 occasions last year, and it's brought it back again. I suppose we should ask the allotment officer for air concerns, Libby. Libby,
yes.
Have you got concerns with this?
Yes, but I've never ever found a resolution to the bonfire issue on allotments. Really, it's a difficult one. You could ban bonfires, and then you're going to get complaints from the tenants, and if you don't ban bonfires, you're going to get complaints from the residents. I think you need to balance it up with, you know, what you think is the best thing to do.
Thank you for those comments, Lib. Matt, then I'll take you, Claire.
Yeah, so to back up what Libby said, part of the issue is if bonfires are banned, every time a bonfire is lit, and if somebody complains, we don't have the wherewithal within our staffing to keep going down to the allotments when anything happens. We do, at the moment, they are banned between specific months, between from the end of September to the end of May, I think. So they can't. So that's when they can have allotments, bonfires. They can't have them over the summer months. And we extended it to the end of. We reduced it to the end of September or the end of October when they couldn't. It is a situation that no answer will make everybody happy. We're never going to please the residents, because especially during this lockdown time, more people are at home more of the time in good weather with windows open and washing. We can fully appreciate the issues they have. Allotment holders, they have issues as well. They have items on their plots which are not compostable. Some vegetation they can't compost, so they burn. We tell them not to bring anything from home. That is in their contracts. If anything in their, if they become classed a nuisance. So, for example, if the tenant was discovered to be regularly bringing items from home and burning them, that could be classed as a nuisance. They could forfeit their tenancy. It really is a situation where whichever answer will displease somebody, and some answers will dictate more work, more reporting, and more control. It is a very difficult one that councils up and down the country struggle with.
Thank you. Claire, then Ian.
Can't you have an agreed day twice a year where you allow bonfires, say at the end of sometime in September and at some other time? Then you're not banning them all together, but you know, I don't know, sometime in September maybe you could have bonfires. I mean, some people love bonfires. I know there's a woman at the back of me has regular bonfires in the summer. And I've complained to the council about her. She puts all her settees and possessions in the back garden, sticks paraffin on it, burns it in the summer. I have to close all my windows. I complain to the council and they can't do anything. So she's allowed to do it with her settee and her mattresses. Then it's crackers that people can't burn what I class as legitimate rubbish, as long as they're not bringing them mattresses from home to burn on the bonfires. So I don't know. I mean, you were talking about having the allotments included in the heritage thing in September. Why don't you have bonfires on the evening to round it off and a few fireworks or something?
Well, yeah, it's easy said than done, that, Claire, but I take your point, your valid points.
I think one of the concerns, Mr. Chair, if we had a very limited time for bonfires, it would become a fire hazard by having so many within a small amount of time.
Ian?
Well, I was just going to say, aren't some bonfires covered by East Riding bylaws anyway? There are, and contrary to what Claire says, but I think there are some restrictions by the East Riding as well.
Yeah, there is. I mean, we can introduce bylaws as a town council, you know, but whether they're adhered to or not, I don't know. I'm looking at Libby. I think we can, can't we, Lib?
Don't know. Pete would have to look into it, I think.
The issue with allotments, Mr. Chair, is it's quite old-fashioned law. But as I've learned through Libby's advice and looking at the allotments, allotment law is very specific. Just, you know, on quite subtle matters. For example, you can keep hens on an allotment, but not chickens, because chickens pass as cockerels as well, and cockerels crow and create a nuisance. So whilst it seems quite archaic and quite specific, things like being able to burn rubbish on allotments, waste on allotments, is fine. But we can decide whether or not we allow it on our allotments. It's not against the law or the rules for them to do it, unless we make it so within the tenancies. However, what we do then regarding people still having bonfires, because the number of people who have the bonfires is limited and the majority are responsible. But all it takes is a small number in good weather when people have the windows open to create an issue, which might be smaller than it appears, but it does have a negative impact on people's everyday lives who live close.
And we do write, every time we write to tenants, we include paragraphs about nuisance and burning rubbish, and it's never ending, that. And I think it's just probably a few that are causing trouble for the majority, really, because most of them burn responsibly. There's just the odd one or two that causes the trouble, really. And it's hard because you can't sorry, it's just you can't always determine who's burning it, because people might take rubbish onto somebody else's plot and burn it there, and then you can't determine who's actually burnt the bonfire. It's very, very difficult unless you've seen them actually strike the match and light it. It's very, very difficult to determine who's actually done it, even if it is on somebody's, you know, on a particular plot.
Claire?
Well, if we are allowed to make bylaws, then maybe you should grasp the nettle and make some bylaws about what you're actually doing about bonfires to try and nip, you know.
We are allowed to make bylaws, Claire, but I don't know whether we're allowed to make this bylaw on bonfires. We'll have to look into it, as Libby rightly says. Ian?
I was just going to be flippant, saying it's discriminatory in avian matters to discriminate against poultry of different genders, really. Just me being flippant. I think David's got his hand up.
Yeah, David.
The problem with bylaws is not making them, though that can be a problem. It's actually enforcing them.
Yeah.
You're just moving things one step further down the road.
Yeah. I suggest we'll look into this a bit more further, and we'll come back to the next planning property and services meeting.
I mean, if you did create some bylaws, you could include it in the pack you send out to them, couldn't you? Because Libby's just said that you send out.
Yeah. We're not daft. We're more than aware of that, Claire. You know, we don't write every week to the tenants, but as I've said, we will have to get advice on the bylaw, and then, as David's pointed out, as I said earlier, it's enforcing it. You can have bylaws for this, bylaws for that, but who's going to police it and who's going to enforce it? That's the whole crux of the matter. I suppose. Yes, I've got you, Anne. I've got you, Matt. I suppose that the people who we really want to be talking to, and I don't know whether we've done it already, I'm looking at Libby and I'm looking at Matt, East Riding of Yorkshire Council, Environmental Health. They're the people that we need to get hold of and see what their latest take on bonfires is, and then we move with what their latest take is. We adopt what they're trying to achieve. I'm sure that there's been an emergency, a climate emergency declared at East Riding. We've got a bonfire emergency here. So what we'll do, we'll tie that in with the climate emergency, and here presto, East Riding of Yorkshire Council may well take responsibility and say, Mr. Plot 15, wherever it is, you cannot do that anymore because we're banning it. End of. That's what we really need. We're limited powers. We sometimes think we've got all the powers that there is under the sun, but we're not. We're only a little town council, and we need to give time to Libby and Matt, and they'll come back to us at the next PPS meeting, and we'll do everything we can to resolve this. But what I'll say to Claire is, she was on about bed mattresses and sofas. And, so long as they're not taking the sofas down. Well, you all know that I saw the emptying of the skip last year. I volunteered my services, and lo and behold, I was faced with a huge pile of rubbish. And it was a kind plot tenant who helped me. And would you believe we're putting all sorts in that skip? Yes, glass I can accept. Polycarbonate I can accept from a greenhouse. But when it comes to vacuum cleaners, a 240 volt vacuum cleaner, I'd like to see where there's an allotment got 240 on, because they must have a pristine allotment when they vacuum it every day. Yeah, that's the sort of thing we've been gathering up. And carpets, would you believe, throwing them in, and bits of washers. So yeah, I'm sure that some of these plot holders that have bonfires are getting rid of the household waste because they don't fancy queuing down at Wheel Road for 50 minutes plus. So they take it up to the allotment and burn it. End of. But until we get a resolve on this, yes, I sympathise with the two residents. We have to sympathise with them, and we feel sorry for them. But on the same time, they've got to understand our hands are tied somewhat, because we haven't got the officers' time to go down there for 24/7 and watch what's going on. Right, I'll come down off my soapbox. So do we agree that we move forward on that suggestion? Yes, Anne, is that agreed?
We did agree quite a while ago that they could only have bonfires between, I think it was October, and was it the end of March or the end of April?
We
did make a Libby would know. Yeah. But I don't see how we can police it. No. I really don't see how we can police it. And if we knew which plots these people were complaining about, maybe we could do something. We can't have somebody there at 24/7. And Matt wanted to speak, I think.
All right, Matt.
No, I was just going to make the suggestion that you, Mr. Turbo, contacted East Riding Environmental Health.
Yeah. Is that agreed? And possibly a ward member might like to move a resolution at East Riding Full Council on this subject about bonfires, because I'm sure it's not just Beverley. I'm sure it's throughout the East Riding bonfires, massive problem. But I'll leave it on that note. Right. Item 10 then, from bonfires to street lighting. To consider request from residents in Morley's Yard for enhanced street lighting. Over to you, Matt, your report.
Yeah, Morley's Yard. Not everyone knows that there are residents in there. There's one house as you turn into it,
yeah.
But at the far end of it, next to the back of the Queen's Head, above what is now an empty office space, there are quite a number of flats.
Yeah,
and Airbus is next to them, etc. Yeah. The residents, as a contractor who lives there, saying how dark it is and dangerous. Now, you'll see from the map where it is. So it does get a bit tucked off the main street. Having had some personal experience of leaving the King's Head when it's been dark of an evening and trying to make my way home through that route, I can confirm how very dark it is. I'm not sure whether the land is in the East Riding's ownership or not. When, as you can see from the communication, when the residents spoke to East Riding, they directed to the town council. So I brought it to this committee to see whether, in principle, council will be mindful for us to look into it. Starting with the land ownership, whether it's adopted, which bits. In some parts of Beverley, especially these small alleyways and off streets like that, land ownership is often split. There have been some of the small tunnel passageways where the front's been owned by one property, the half of one at the back is backed by the other, and half by the other. So multiple ownership can be an issue. So I'm not sure exactly where that lies, but it's to see if this committee is mindful for us to look into it on that route. And then once we can establish whether or not it's something we could do, to bring it back for further consideration.
Yeah. Yeah, is that agreed? Ian, are you agreeing?
No, I think you're right, Martin. It's definitely unadopted by the state of the road leading down there. But it's it's one of these things. If that's the case, is it not at the behest and the cost of the people who are down there? I don't know. At one time, when it was Cherry's Coaches, they had massive floodlights down there a long time ago. But yeah, it needs resolving in terms of ownership.
Yes, it could be adopted. In fact, no ownership. It could be multiple ownership. We'll look into it if you're so minded.
Agreed. Just on street lighting, Matt, and members. There is an area that, seeing as though we've mentioned it, bottom of New Begin, that is very, very dark there. New Begin Lairgate, it's almost pitch black. And, you know, I don't know whether there's a street light out. I've tried and looked and I can't see a street light. It may well be, Matt, that you might like to mention that to East Riding as well.
Yeah, I'll wander up there when it's dark one evening, Mr. Chair, just to see if there's anything, see what it's like, and then also to see whether there's anything that's actually not working around it that should be. Yeah, leave that with me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is that agreed? Thank you. Item 11, scheme of delegation. I'm going to suggest, can we leave this for this meeting, and we get, because I'm not convinced that we've got everything here in this, and so rather than rush it through tonight, agreeing it, we would be better off leaving it to the next meeting if members agree. Is that okay? Yeah, thank you. So item 12, to receive updates on the following 12A Beverley Beck, a living waterway. That's to do with the commuted sums bid, which we were successful. Both Linda and myself met the commuted sums officer, because if you remember, Matt, Libby and Carol were snowed under with one thing to another, but the year end and getting a new internal auditor and so on and so forth. So Linda managed to get a meeting, successful meeting with Leanne Wright, who's the community sums officer, and I'm pleased to announce that we do have an extension until June of next year. She's agreed to extend it until June next year, the money. So you know, the rush is the heat is gone off, trying to get it done. It would be nigh impossible to get it done. So that's that. 12B, the Hanseatic League promotion of Beverley Beck. Again, Amy Stewart, I don't know whether you know him, but he's the man who was successful in getting Beverley known, and indeed becoming a member of the Modern Hanseatic League. And he is a keen Beverley Beck enthusiast, and he sees it. Yes, I've got you, David. Would you like to speak? Yeah, go on then.
Right. The Hanseatic League question is one really involving what is sometimes called the Port of Beverley.
Yeah.
And we should remember that Beverley was the major port of the north of England,
yes,
for more than a century.
Yeah.
And we probably in the long run should be thinking about having boards at the town end of the beck, the other end of the beck, Grove Hill Shipyard, and perhaps the Hull Bridge as well.
Yes.
But certainly the first three, because they're all part of what was the very important port of Beverley.
Thank you for
remember,
those.
the oldest among us can remember ships being launched in Beverley.
I'm looking at Ian. That's nice. I see you're nodding your head. So
yeah, yes, I did get wet at one ship.
I can remember getting wet as well. I think it was one of the last ships to be launched. Right. So the Modern Hanseatic. So Amish has been successful in contacting various officers at East Riding, and he's been successful to get in at least one board, port board, reflecting the Hanseatic League on Beverley Beck. And the suggested place to put it is right at outside Foresters at the head of the Beverley Beck. There will be other boards appearing as time goes on, but because of circumstances, it was agreed that you'd get this board up and running. Yes, Linda.
And just if I may, Mr. Chair, can we thank various officers at East Riding of Yorkshire Council who have agreed to refurbish the 4 port boards that are already there. They're going to make them all singing or dancing, and they're going to do it at no cost to Beverley Town Council. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay, that goes without saying. Even Matt agrees to that.
Yes, tomorrow afternoon, myself, the chair, and Councillor Johnson are meeting with Niall Adams from East Riding, who's going to update us on that, and then to look at how that fits in with the Hanseatic idea as well.
Yes. Claire?
Is Hamish going to come to a full council and talk to us about what he's been up to then, or is it that not appropriate?
Well, I don't think it's appropriate, Claire. The Hanseatic League is a separate organisation, and he'll send reports to the members of that association. But we've assisted him, of the Hanseatic League committee. We've assisted them in getting these boards done, or this board done. Through the kindness of the ward member who was present tonight. I might add. So that's that. The 12C Swanmore State Community History Garden. That's junction of Neville Avenue and Queen's Road. We're hoping we can get a group of people involved with learning difficulties. Linda and myself have been talking to a person who sort of coordinates that sort of group, and we're just tying a few ends together, and what East Riding have agreed for the town council to carry out whatever they want to do within reason, so long as they don't build any permanent buildings, but we can tidy the garden up. It's ours to do what we want. And indeed, again, I'd like to thank East Riding officers, because they have been very, very helpful. They've even offered to get their arboricultural services chaps down to get rid of the trees and bushes and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's an ongoing project. We'll keep you up to speed on that as time comes, but it's positive. And then Town 12D, just to update your town planting, including tiered planters, hanging baskets, etc. We've agreed, so long as it's up to agreed with Beverley Property Planning Property and Services Committee. But I've been in touch with Plantscape, who supplied us year on year, and they've agreed to freeze our pay. So in other words, the cost that we paid out last year is going to be same this year for the self and same. The 8 3-tier planters, and I think it's 60 or 70 hanging baskets for businesses. We're going to get them as we got last year. I said to Richard at Plantscape, you know, we're in a tight situation. We can't very well go to the businesses and saying cough up 60 quid per basket under these circumstances. We want to make the town look colourful, and so he said, right, we'll freeze the price for you. You can have them the same as what you paid last year. Matt's on with sorting something out with Carol, and then we've got Tony the plant man. He's going to do the barrier planters. We have been, I've got you, Claire, we have been in talks with Beverley and Bloom. Beverley and Bloom ladies, they're moving on as fast as they can, but they just need a bit more guidance from Matt, and Matt's assured me that he's going to give them that guidance to get them up and running, because you will remember we've agreed that they go on their own, so they can do what they want within their constraints of the Constitution, and indeed in doing that they would qualify to become a partner with the Beverley Town Council, and of course they can apply for external funding, so the world's their oyster, so they're happy. And of course with that we're going to let them have some equipment that on permanent loan, it's the property of Beverley Town Council, but we're going to let them have the planters which are already planted up. The Beverley Town Council purchased, indeed, they have purchased quite a few items of their own through the help of Tesco's and various businesses around the town. To credit to them. So yeah, Claire.
You know the lonely corner on next to Sally's that I alluded to earlier? Can we have something stuck there? Because there's all those weeds there. that never seems to go away, even in the winter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know where you mean. It's a bugbear, is that yours, isn't it?
Well, I walk past it so much.
Yeah, I know, you like I do, but next time you walk past it and weeds are growing a foot high.
What are you suggesting? I take my secateurs and pull them out?
Yeah, and a bag with you. And then we
well,
might
then can I have a big planter in that corner if I do that?
Oh, look, Claire, you can't have everything. You're wanting Christmas tree lights there and a tree. Now you're wanting a planter. I suppose we'll get a planter for you. It probably won't be quite where it is, but...
Thank you, Peter. You're a wonderful man.
Thank you, Claire. Have you got anything to add, Matt, to that? I mean, the items. No. Have you anything to add, members? No. Well, in that case, then I declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance at 19:29.